So in my last video, I kind of talked about how I'm not really friends with guys very much. And I'm assuming that might get some questions, you know, regarding that. So I figured I'd address it now if anyone's curious why that is the case. So the very first reason why I'm not friends with a lot of guys is if you're a guy, you'll get this. You know, if you're not into sports, or you're not into hunting or cars, it can be a very alienating experience because a lot of guys, not every guy, but a lot of guys typically enjoy those things. So when someone they meet is not, a fan of those things, you lose a lot of bonding opportunity. Because if those things are the main modes of fun for those people, then they don't really have a way to bond with you, right? There's nothing they can say, oh yeah, let's do this together or what have you, right? Um, Especially if you're like me and you are not into drinking. If drinking is not your thing, then you're in even more trouble than you were if you didn't like sports. In addition, if you don't like drinking, you are going to run into a problem. Um, and that's because a lot of guys, they they like to drink. You know what I mean? And that's just the truth, right? Not every guy, but a lot of guys do, and it's super common to drink and then watch sports, etc. Right? That's a super common activity for a lot of guys. So if you don't do those things, it's pretty easy to be ostracized and outcasted. Not exactly verbally. It's not like you'll be told, I'm not going to be friends with you because of this. But it's hard to be friends with them, even if they are willing to somehow still be friends, because if you're not participating in those activities, you're kind of excluded because there's not, a way for you guys all to hang out together. Um, and this is something that I witnessed firsthand as I got older. I had a really close friend who I was friends with from eighth grade. And as I got older and I got into a relationship, he didn't quite do the same. He was still single and was kind of living that single life, which is fine, right? It's perfectly fine. Nothing is wrong with that. That's not a bad lifestyle. But that's not something that I was looking to continue doing in my life. I was starting to mature and I didn't want to drink every weekend and, smoke weed and stuff still. I wasn't a teenager anymore, right? So I kind of ran into some trouble because I I didn't know how to relate to my friend anymore. And it kind of struck me that we didn't have a whole lot in common as people, but we bonded over liking video games. But more importantly, we like to drink, we like to smoke weed, and we would just do that while we play video games. And when I no longer was really drinking very often or smoking weed anymore, it became difficult to hang out with him because those are the activities that he liked to do. So when it became a situation where I'm like, hey, I don't think I want to continue to do those things, it's not like there's a peer pressure or something that I had to conform and still do it. But at the end of the day, um, I don't think our friendship was the same due to that. Like, because I didn't do those things, I think our friendship kind of fell apart because, well, I was busy, I had a partner, but on top of that, we just didn't like the same things anymore and we couldn't hang out the same way. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know, it was difficult to still be friends. Um, but that's a pretty big one. If you don't do activities other guys do, it's hard to be friends with guys because you can't relate to the things that they enjoy. Um, And it creates just distance that you really can't fix unless you kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone, which it's not that I'm incapable of doing that, but it's just not something I want to do just to have friends. It's like lying about who I really am because I really don't enjoy those things, right? I don't. And that's just the truth. And I'd rather stay true to myself, you know? Another another common thing that has affected me as I've gotten older is not only have I taken time to start understanding different perspectives, you know, in life, but I've also come to appreciate women as not just objects and not just existing to be attractive to guys, right? I've come to appreciate women as people for what they are, you know, no different than me. And not every guy is able to get that realization. Even if they get married or they have kids or whatever, sometimes they still are stuck in the phase of um, women are here for me, and that's all there is to it. Um, and here's an example of this. You know, recently at my job, well, not recently, but about a year or two ago, actually maybe 3 years, let's just say that. Um, I joined my company, and they were taking me out to lunches and stuff, and people were kind of trying to integrate me into the fold essentially, and they were trying to feel me out. So they wanted to go out to eat. I was like, sure, why not? So we ended up going to like Buffalo Wild Wings or something. I don't really remember. Not important. The attendees in the car, one of them was married and had a kid. He was like 50 something years old. The other guy was single, and he is like 45 or something, I believe. So we're driving. We're not quite at the restaurant. And there is a woman that is bent over pumping gas at a gas station. And out of nowhere, the one guy is like, man, would you look at that? I wouldn't mind waking up to that in the morning. And then the other guy was like, yeah, I'd tear that up. And at the time, I was still in a relationship with my ex. But when I heard that, I was kind of thinking to myself, um, why are we doing this? What is the point of the conversation? And maybe it's partly me being autistic, but I think also part of it is me just not fitting in with other guys in that way because I don't know why we're having the conversation. There is no point to the conversation. If it's to affirm my sexuality, I have no desire to do that. I don't need to display what I prefer sexually and need to prove it. There's no reason to do that. You know, I'm not in high school anymore. And if you're married, I would think you'd be loyal to your partner. That doesn't mean that you don't find other women attractive or that you don't look at women or, find them appealing. That's a stupid thing to say. That's just not really possible biology wise. But I would think it would mean you don't sit there and just outright say you'd like to wake up next to another woman or you would sleep with them. I don't think that's appropriate. I think you should be more appreciative of your partner and the gifts that they provide, both intimate and non-intimate, and not desire that with somebody else. Um, and that's completely different from looking and saying, yeah, I like what I see. And even if myself, which I did find the person attractive, I didn't voice that. Honestly, I didn't say anything because I found the whole situation to be surreal. Um, and this isn't some holier, mightier than thou, I am better than these people statement. More so than anything, it's confusion because I don't know where the conversation is supposed to go. All I can kind of say is it supposed to end in like a jerk session? Like I don't get it. I don't get um, what I'm supposed to do with the information, right? I have other guys in front of me saying, wow, she's so hot. I'd love to sleep with her. Am I supposed to join in and say I would too? And if so, why? What's the overall goal of me saying that? Those are kind of two reasons why I've had trouble, being friends with guys because it's hard to bridge that gap, especially if you don't like those sort of things. I don't like the way guys talk about women. I don't. Um, Not because I think it's a horrible thing to do. I mean, I don't think you really should because, I mean, I don't get the point of it. But on top of that, because I don't, I don't understand why I would do it. What I enjoy intimately and who I find attractive and what is not what, but what I find attractive in a person, right? Um, is my business. I don't want other people to know those things. I want those are for me and someone I may be interested in. That's not for someone to know, and they don't need to know, right? They don't have a reason or a need to know that. That's for me to know, right? Um, that's not information I'm willing to just volunteer out to people. Um, Maybe I'm strange for that. I guess I don't know. It's not like I'm into anything extreme, but that's not something I'm going to discuss here. But I don't know. I just don't quite understand it. Um, and like I said previously, it could be the autism, but it doesn't make sense to me. And it never has. Um, it just doesn't. And another thing that is really, really, really hard to describe, especially if you're not comfortable talking about your emotions, but you can't be emotional with men. You can't. It's very, very, very rare to be allowed to say, I feel statements. The only times it's acceptable to express vulnerability as a guy is if somebody or something died or you lost your job or something. It has to be very bad for you to be able to do that. It's like an unwritten rule. You can't say, man, I had a really bad day, all this stuff happened and I just feel terrible. Or someone said something that kind of affected me, or I have this thing coming up and I'm stressed about it. Whatever it may be, right? It's not acceptable to say those things. Maybe with certain friends it is, but most guys, especially of the generation, I'm not going to throw out the term boomers. That's not exactly it, but like, if you're 30, 40, 50, it's generally not okay to say those things, especially if they're 40 and 50 years old. And plus, it's generally not acceptable to do that. Um, I think as you get older, it is. I think older guys, especially seniors, they're not as hard about things, I guess I could say. They're more forthcoming. Um, but younger guys, and if they haven't hit like 60 or 70, it's just not there. Um, but women are different. I can have a rough day or just tell a woman I'm stressed and I get a completely different type of understanding and support and I don't get judgment for it. I don't feel as if I am being looked down on or perceived as weak or not masculine enough. I'm just a person that is experiencing something and I can say this is what I'm going through and it's okay. And it's allowed. Honestly, it's even encouraged. Um, and that's hard to relate to other people, especially if you are not comfortable being emotional, right? If you're one of the people like me who had trouble fitting in growing up and you are ridiculed by your peers for being an emotional person, it's hard to be like that with people because you're used to it not being okay, and all of a sudden you're being told, well, you can do this. Every instinct in your body and all of your previous knowledge is saying, no, I can't. I'm not allowed to do those things, right? Um, I think I'll stop there. Those are the main reasons why I don't think I get along well with guys. That's not to say I can't go out to lunch or go out to dinner or something like that, or I hate men. That's definitely not a thing. Um, you know, but when it comes to being friends, like work friends, and like I'll hang out and talk to you, and maybe message on Teams and stuff back and forth. It's just not a thing. I don't find it to be as fulfilling as having female friends in the workplace. Um, yeah, I just don't get as much out of it. Um, all right, well, hope you have a great day wherever you're at, whatever time zone, or a good night, depending on what time you're listening to this. Either way, I hope you're having a good one and keep carrying on.